Hey, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Whitney.
We started this true crime podcast over a glass of wine and quickly turned from true crime listeners into true crime advocates.
So get comfy, pop a cork, and grab a glass because we have work to do.
This is Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet.
Some content may be unsuitable for sensitive listeners. Discretion is advised. Hey guys, it's Whitney. I wanted to jump in and remind you to get your 2023 calendar at podcastcalendars.com. Use the code Cabernet to receive a discount. And that's our really only announcement this week. I'm going to just jump right in. I do have wine, but because this episode's a little bit different for us, I'm just going to jump straight in. My case this week is of an unsolved murder. It takes place in a few different greater Atlanta suburbs, so Jonesboro and Noonan. These three are all within a 75-mile radius. The majority of this case happens in Noonan, so let me just tell you a little bit about this city inside of Coweta County. Noonan is 40 miles southwest of Atlanta with a population of just around 42,000, with a crime rate more than 3 times higher than the state average. The chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime is 1 in 80 in Noonan and 1 in 250 in all of the rest of Georgia. Noonan hosted one of the most talked about trials in 1948, and that's the trial of John Wallace. He was the first white man to be condemned to death by the testimony of an African American male. A book and a movie that starred Johnny Cash and June Carter was made about this trial, titled Murder in Coweta County. 2 field workers were forced to burn the body of a white sharecropper named Wilson Turner and testified against their boss. This was a newsworthy event, to say the least, back in the 40s. Most recently, Noonan, Georgia made headlines when an EF4 tornado hit in 2021, and it was the largest tornado on record in Georgia since 1950. The story I'm sharing with you guys today is a little bit different format than what we usually do. We were given an opportunity to be able to speak with Blake Chappell's case advocate, LaShonda, over the phone, actually while we were in Georgia this weekend. And I just want to share that interview. There are spots where the sound gets a little rough, but please hang in there. It's worth it.
I didn't know Blake personally. I met Melissa, it's been, wow, time flies fast. It's been a little over a year now. I actually live in Atlanta, not too far from where Melissa and Blake were living when they were in Clayton County. And from there, 11 Alive News, they did probably about a little over a year and a half now. They did a story on Blake's case, and I saw that on the news nearby where I lived. And I actually also worked for the community manager for John Lord. And so I actually reached out and said, hey, John, I really like this case. I'm really interested. Do you mind if I write the script for one of the podcasts that he does, Usually Mysterious?
Okay.
And from there, I actually co-wrote with Catherine Pear. And in doing the research there, we just ran into so many things that just didn't make sense, just wasn't adding up. Due just wanting to be accurate. And Melissa doing other interviews, reached out to Melissa and said, hey, I want to do this episode. If you're okay with it, write for it. And just get more information from her. And spoke to her one day at an interview. We ended up sitting with her for hours. Just talking about Blake, about who he was, the amazing kid he was growing up, how he had such an old soul. Like he reminds me a lot actually of my nephew that I'm really close with. He reminds me so much of my nephew. And Melissa at the time, she was doing it pretty much all on her own, interviews and everything she was doing on her own. And it was becoming really hard. And from there, Catherine and I were like, okay, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
No way you can do this on your own. And from there, we started working with her, created the Facebook group, started reaching out to other podcasters and YouTubers and to see who would cover the case. And from there, after that, it was like, okay, what's next? We need to reach out to the different police departments. So we reached out to Noonan and find out what they're willing to talk to us about. And we're a year and a half later now.
Wow. I know about Blake's case a little bit more than Melissa here does. Do you mind hitting the basics of it? I know it's a very complicated case. I have gone down the rabbit hole, and there's so many different aspects to what happened to him. If you don't mind.
Do you want me to go start from Clayton County or from the prom?
Whichever works best for you.
Okay. So Blake and Melissa lived in Clayton County in 2011. That's where Blake was dating. He had an ex-girlfriend at the time, and her stepfather didn't appreciate Blake being in any kind of past relationship whatsoever. And so he was attacked by one day the stepfather and two of his grown friends went searching out after Blake and found him and attacked him and beat him up pretty badly. And I said, one of these days, I'm going to kill you. Just keep it up. I'm going to kill you. And the police, unfortunately, when Melissa and Blake went to actually put in the police report, they were met with a lot of hindrance because from what we know, now it hasn't been confirmed that Blake actually Earl, the stepdaughter whose father attacked, is the one that actually attacked Blake, him and his friend. He had friends in the police department. So somehow it was spun around that and ended up Blake being arrested for 2 weeks without bond. Due to all that was going on from that, because I started just threatening Melissa, Blake, friends that had been there the day that he was attacked. Melissa thought it was better for them to move. So they moved to Noonan. Noonan is where he started dating actually a new girl there, started going to East Noonan High. And the night he had actually gotten out on bail, not too long, like probably a night or not too long before his homecoming. The night of his homecoming, Melissa actually took him to his girlfriend at the time's house, Ryan. He was scheduled to meet Ryan at her house, and then her mom was going to drive them to have dinner to the prom, to the homecoming, at East Coweta High. After the prom, they went back home. They went back to Ryan's house, and Ryan's mom, hours later of them hanging out, dropped them to Blake's close friend Austin's house, which was probably about 3 miles away from Ryan's house in Noonan, off of Summer Grove. And about 2 a.m. that night when Blake was up with Ryan, they had made an arrangement that he would sneak back over to the house without her mom knowing. So he did. Austin says that accounts that he left approximately about 2 a.m. and he gave Blake one of his jackets to use. Mm-hmm. Blake left there about 2 a.m. and walked that 3-mile walk to Ryan's house. Got there. They hung out for a while and then got caught by Ryan's grandmother, who then went and told her mom. And Blake asked Ryan if she wanted him to leave. And she said yes, so he snuck back out of the bedroom, which was about 5 a.m. And at 5 a.m., between 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m., Blake was texting back and forth to Ryan and her mom, Shannon, just apologizing to Shannon about being in the house without the mom's permission, and saying that a police officer was getting on to him about being out after curfew, because back then there was a curfew for minors, and basically just checked his ID. He did text back to Shannon either Shannon or Ryan, letting them know, hey, he just checked my ID and sent me on my way, and continued walking. Text again saying how cold it was. And the last text really was him sending a text to Shannon saying that he was trying to buy a Monster Energy drink, which she really loved, the Monster Energy drink. After that, no one had heard, and Shannon and Ryan kept on texting him to find out, hey, did you make it back to Austin's house? That walk at that hour of the morning, and all of a sudden he stopped responding, and they couldn't find him. So Shannon got nervous with Ryan. They went out, started searching. They went over to Austin's house actually to see if they knew if they saw him anywhere in the area. Austin also was out searching, and they couldn't find him. That's when they contacted Melissa to let her know that he had been missing. Now she'll tell you she was so concerned. That was actually one of the first times he had been out and allowed to spend the night at somebody's house after he was attacked, but because of all the constant threats that was making against his life. So that was the first night Melissa was actually feeling okay to let him know, all right, you can stay at your friend's house, but promise me under no circumstance you're going to leave the house at all. He said, yes, Mom, I won't leave the house, and I will stay here. Being a teenager, of course, he left. And they drove around for a while, probably about 10, 11 a.m. They contacted Melissa to let her know that they don't know where Blake is and that he's missing. And Melissa's boyfriend at the time met with Austin, came up to Noonan, jumped down to where Austin lived, pick up Austin to drive around to search for Blake. So between them and then Shannon and Ryan was also searching. At the time, Blake only had a text phone, like you could only do messaging, texting. So Melissa thought it would be better that she would stay home because they only had a landline too at the time. She didn't have a cell phone. So just in case that he did call, because anything that's gone on, that's the first thing he would do. He would find a way somehow to call his mom. And so she stayed home while everybody else searched. They couldn't find him. They didn't find him anywhere. And 2 months later, on December the 19th, two people were passing by over White Oak Creek, and they spotted a body in the creek. And after police got there and checked, unfortunately, it was.
Ow. And I know that there's several things. The internet is wildly wrong and wildly right in the worst possible ways. I know that there was a lot of concern with how long it took to find Blake. And with the temperatures being as low as they were concerned, or there's lots of speculation, I guess you could say, that maybe he hadn't been there that whole time.
There's been several searches. If you look at the space between Ryan's house, Austin's house, the creek is right in the middle, like it's right in the middle of them. Unfortunately, there's different, like 3 or so routes that you could actually take, 2 or 3 routes you could actually take to get from each point to the other, but it's right in the middle.
Yes.
And there have been so many searches of that area that, and the creek isn't something, if you look at it, it's not something that if you're walking over it the same just as way as the passerbyers, when they were walking over, they were able to see somebody. You could see somebody down there. Because of how many searchers that were out, they had searched that area, and Blake was not there. There was nothing there. When Blake had been missing for 2 months at that point, the coroner does not know if he can't, he can't say exactly how long Blake had been dead to that point, but he's sure because of decomposition on Blake's body that he does it. He feels secure in saying Blake has not been dead for that period of time because his extremities had just started turning black, which for somebody who would have been dead for over 2 months, that would have already happened. And so why is it now that his extremities were now turning black, but also that were for someone who had been in a lake a long period of time, you would have an excessive amount of mosquito bites. You would have other animals just from the creek. There were so many things.
And likely much more decomposition.
Yeah, it would have been so much further along than he actually was. The only problem is the coroner couldn't say whether he was killed on and was maybe in a freezer or in some way that it drastically slowed down decomposition. He doesn't think so, but he's not willing to rule that out.
Yes.
And then the second thing he said, with the way Blake's body was, he definitely can't see him being in that water no more than 3 days. So with all the searchers that went by, they're saying, no, we searched her. Blake was not there. Melissa herself had been in that area herself, looking at, if you look at I don't know if you look a map of the area, right on a golf course.
Yes.
There's like right across that area, there's maintenance sheds that go to the actual golf course where they have the carts and stuff. In that area, Melissa had been searching all that area. All that is a part of the creek. Our searches were all around that area on Summer Grove Parkway and on the adjacent with Lawrence. I have to look it up. I'll be able to tell you. They had been all along that way. And between that and the coroner saying, hey, no, there's no way that he was in the water for over 3 days, it's safe to say that Blake was not there the whole time. That would have been one of the routes he could have, when he left Ryan's to go back to Austin, he would have either gone down Lower Fayetteville, or he could have also cut down Summer Grove Parkway. There's a few people that have said that there was a possibility that he could have, but there's also a way to cut through a very wooded trail, like a hiking trail. It's a possibility, but Blake wasn't very familiar with the area. He didn't know that area. And he would have, for him to have taken that route through the trail, it's more so for people that know the area. You're going to follow down the road and the main road instead. So those right now are the three options. But either way, the police would say that they know, even though the coroner won't say that how long he had actually been dead, but he's for sure to say that hasn't been in the water for more than 3 days.
Once they found his remains, where did the investigation go from there?
What they did was their first thing was they sent Blake to the GBI to do an autopsy there. The GBI had him for quite a while. Actually, his memorial service, Blake wasn't even there. And after the GBI sent him back so that Melissa could get him, from there, it has been, to be honest, it's been unsolved. Even though they say that they're investigating, and I don't believe that they're willfully just not investigating. I don't believe that. I just think a lot of, I'm sure you've worked and helped out with a lot of families. It just seems like some common sense things that you would think investigators would do. He has a phone. Why would you not try to ping his phone? You didn't do that. There's actually, I don't know if you remember, Brian's mom said that one of the last texts he sent to her was that he was trying to buy a Monster drink. On that route, there's only one area, right, not even 5 minutes from Austin's house. There's a BP gas station that was there. It's another gas station now, but there was a BP. The store clerk said that he saw Blake at 7:30. So that's between 5:30 a.m. Let's give it that short 30 minutes there to 7:30 then, where the store owner said Blake came to the store which would explain his text that he was trying to buy a Monster, and that he asked what time does the store open. The store clerk said he told them 8 o'clock, and Blake said okay and walked off in a direction. He's not sure what direction. Yeah, police didn't go there to pull the tape.
Yeah.
Why would you not go there to pull? I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's a big lead to not follow up on?
It's simple things like that they haven't done, which is a big thing also is Blake's, other than Blake was found and his white undershirt, what he had on when he went to the homecoming dance, he had that underneath his dress shirt, and he had on under boxers, like on under shorts. He didn't have on the shirt he had on before. Ryan said when he came through the window, he had a white Aeropostale hoodie. Mm-hmm. He didn't have that on. He didn't have his pants on. Didn't have his shoes on. His texting phone that he had been texting, and we know he has been texting, they didn't have that. No wallet, nothing.
And he had borrowed a jacket from Austin.
And even also, there's question about that because Austin says that he gave Blake that jacket, but when Blake went through the window, Ryan said no, he didn't have on a jacket. And Melissa says Blake is he was such a funny individual when it comes to borrowing people's items, like their clothing and stuff. He didn't like doing it. So she doesn't even see him taking that jacket. So Austin may have given it to him, but he just left it at the house or didn't, because I don't understand why he would take it off to climb through the window at Ryan's house.
And just leave it outside? And that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. So we don't think he actually had that jacket, but Austin's never said anything. He said he's never seen it. His backpack, when he got to Ryan's house, he didn't have his backpack on him. So it was veteran month at Austin's house. But the police waited so long to go back to Austin and say, hey, okay, we need that backpack. That by the time they did that, Austin said he couldn't find it.
He also couldn't find his jacket either, correct?
Can't find the jacket.
So if Blake hadn't have taken the jacket, Melissa believes he wouldn't have, because that wasn't his normal behavior. They should have it somewhere at the house.
And then he didn't have his backpack.
Uh-huh.
Because he wouldn't really, why would he take his backpack? Because he's just going there walking that 3-mile distance. He would have just left the backpack behind. Yes. Where's the backpack? It's just, and Austin said when in the move, somehow, because he had moved right after, somehow in the move, it must have gotten lost. But that day that this missing person was missing, why would you not go back as an investigator to get his backpack?
Or just even process his last true known location, one of his last true known locations.
There's a lot of things that they didn't do that I think has slowed down the investigation that could have been a lot further along. They are now at the point the last time, thankfully, when we were able to reach out to Season of Justice and they did the build for us. Even that was a push because, okay, reach out to them. Hey, all right, where do you think it's best for us to put up the billboard? No response. No response at all. Can you please just call me back? No response. After we put up the billboard, then they're finally answering. They're like, oh, yeah, we don't know why you put it in Clayton County. Oh, we asked you that. We're going on the best place possible because we know what was going on we know all the threats. We know why Melissa had to leave. We know all these things. So we thought it best to put it right near to Clayton County Jail because of all that happened there too. And then we had the digital ads running all just in unison.
Do you know if they reached out for an alibi that evening?
That's one of the tricky things. They're saying they told, and I'm going to go based on what specifically the officer told me, I could say vouch for it. He told me that it was vetted. I take that back. He didn't say his name. He said the stepfather was vetted and cleared. Then to find out 2 months after that conversation with one of the gays, no, they haven't even spoken to her. Why did you lie to me?
Oh, crap.
Why are you lying to Melissa? Why are you lying? We're trying to help. We're trying to get justice for this woman whose son was murdered. I don't know why you feel it necessary to lie to us about stuff that's just,
And you're trying to help them close a case.
yeah. There's been so many things. And there's a few things I can't necessarily
Sure.
say as to, but there's been so many things, time after time, where you've got, and they're just like, I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you? Are you trying to solve the case? Are you not trying to solve the case? Because it makes no sense. I mean, with other police officers I've spoken to for other completely other counties, they're like, yeah, that's really weird that they would do that. Why wouldn't they? Of examples that I give them, they're like, yeah, I don't see why they would do that. I'm like, yeah, and they still said.
Yeah.
But at the point, they shouldn't. They're investigating. We finally got to admit that no one has been cleared. No one has been taken off any sort of list. That no one has been cleared. And so they're going back out. There's some people that they may have spoken to before that they're going to reach out to again. They have some suspects in their heads that they want to speak more to and look deeper into who they are. They haven't said. They give you like an inclination of who they're going without saying that person's name. And that they've done without giving us the actual name, but I don't know if that's true or again he was just lying to me when I spoke to him. And
Yeah. Is he just trying to pacify you so that you quit bugging him?
Yeah, it's one of those. And even with Season of the Justice, one of their investigators reached out to them. And I even thought, hey, okay, they'll talk to him. Because he used to be a retired cop. They would talk to him. I would think they would be willing to talk to him. But him, they blew up.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Cool, okay. So they're saying they're investigating, which is great. There's a couple of things coming up that we're hoping that the DA does stand by his word and his due that will help push it even further along. Mm-hmm. And until then, keep on just getting the word out there and getting more eyes. They did say a few more tips have come in since the billboard went up. They haven't said like exactly what tips or how it helped, but that they're looking into it.
Okay. I know at one point they had offered a $20,000 reward. Is that still active?
That is still active. We did verify with the manager that it's still active. We have his word that it's there, and if it does help the person that turns in that tip. That does help them solve the case. But yes, they still have the $20,000 that's there.
It's great incentive, but I wish someone who had more information
would come forward,
or that police would follow up on the leads they dropped in the past.
It's one of those things where I don't know if, because unfortunately they did not pull the tapes from the BP gas station, that would have helped narrow down for sure. Okay, at 7:30, we know for a fact he was here. Then that search has dropped. Without them pulling a tape, it makes sense because they had been to the gas station. It's like right around the corner from Austin's house, where Austin lives. And Blake had been there several times with Austin to the same gas station. So the court knows Blake. Mm-hmm. So I feel confident in when he says it was Blake asking, that I feel confident, especially with him also, Blake texting Shannon saying, I'm trying to buy a Monster drink. It leads to that Blake did get back to that area right there. It's just kind of figuring out where he went. Did he go back to Austin? Did he try to go to another store that would have been opened? But it feels like every other store that he would have to walk to it would have taken more time than the 30 minutes for him to wait for the store to open.
And they really could have seen, if they would have gotten the surveillance video, seen if anyone else was there that could possibly have followed him from the store.
And the problem with surveillance is now we're 11 years later, no one stores footage that long.
No.
You're lucky
And
to
it's
get it 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a completely different company now. It's not even BP. It's a completely different gas station now. So I've even thought about, okay, is there some way that I can think of to find out who the clerk was that day, to reach out to them to see if they would remember, but narrower who, then after getting that's before I realized it was a totally different gas station now.
Yeah.
But when I went in to speak to them there, they have no clue of the people that were there before. They have.
And with the company changing hands, the chance of someone still holding on to those employment records, no way.
It's nowhere, yeah.
What is it that we can do to help? Is there a GoFundMe page that we can push out there for you guys? I know that Seasons of Justice, you said, has been helping you guys as well. What kind of call to action can we create to hope, again, put more pressure on law enforcement to work on Blake's case a little bit more?
The first thing is to GoFundMe, because we're trying strongly to raise the retainer, which is $5,000 for a private investigator, Gamble. Him and his son that we've spoken to, and they're willing. They actually assisted in the first few weeks after they found Blake. He did come on board, but because it started getting so costly, so there's no way for him to do it pro bono. And he's willing to come back on the case now if we're able to raise that $5,000.
Okay.
Latina. So that's the biggest thing right now. That's the biggest push, because if we can get a private investigator, especially a private investigator that knows the case so well, to work on leads, that would be amazing. Also, just sharing it. The more I've noticed, the more people that have eyes on the case, and the more people that are pushing and sharing Blake's story, who he was as a person. Hey, that could, you may not know Blake individually from when he was alive, but he could be your son. He could be your brother. He could, all of this could be somebody that's very close to you right now. And if you think that you would want someone to do the same thing for you, share it. And then with that, you're going to reach the people, whether it's one person, two people, or four people that are involved with killing. If they figure the more people that are watching, the more people that are getting closer, they're going to start slipping up. And if not slipping up, they're going to start saying, hey, let me get my story out there first before they do reach out to somebody else. The police does find somebody else, and the other person gets an opportunity to talk before that main person that did kill them does. Now, I've told Melissa several times, I don't think it's one singular person. I think it's a group of people that would have helped, especially for hiding him for such a long period of time. And us pushing his information, pushing his story, if you get that one person that may not even actually help with the physical murder itself, but help with, hey, I told them where Blake was going to be.
Yeah.
Or I did hear so-and-so say that he was going to set him up that night, asking, what direction, or heard, Blake said that he was going to be here, so they said they were going to be driving. Something that seems very little can be a big step.
Yes.
And if you're looking at compared to murder, you coming and saying, I told him where Blake was going to be, it's going to be a lot different than a murder charge. And if we can get that person who knows that little piece, may not very well get charged with murder. If you can get that person to step forward, that it opens up so many other doors. So just sharing the information, making sure that on all social media, Blake's story is out there, and people who want to reach out to the district attorney of Noonan, even the police investigator, private investigator, saying, hey, this case has been there too long. This case is one of the few cases that you have that's still unsolved for such a long period of time. What are you guys doing? And I've noticed one thing about that area. Noonan is very apparent. Like they're very much that the white picket fence, precious golf course area. So if every time I reach out to them, not necessarily like the Summer Grove area, like you have the homeowners association, everything for that area, anything that I'm doing, they're just like, as long as it's not between certain hours, to make sure it doesn't look too bad of a, if it's anything along those lines, like they see more attention coming on to that area, dealing with the murder case, they're going to be pushing more. Hey, no, we need to get this cleared up. And that which is going to blow back onto Noonan PD to start working more on the case.
If you have any information regarding the murder of Blake Chappell, please contact the Greater Atlanta Crime Stoppers at 404-577-TIPS, the Noonan Police Department tip line at 770-254-2350, or you can also email to unsolvedhomicide@cityofnoonan.org. The $20,000 reward is still active. And if you're looking to help this family, please share this episode. Please share any information you may have about Blake, as well as the GoFundMe link in the show notes. Just by listening to our content, you too are advocating for justice for these families. Thank you for making a difference in their lives as well.
We want to share a few ways you can support us to continue our mission. You can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $1 per month, or a simple rate and review on your favorite podcast platform helps us get in front of someone who may know something.
We will continue traveling state by state seeking justice because we will be there no matter where,
no matter who.